Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I am guest designing for My Favorite Things again today, and somewhat on time with my video. This is already posted on the MFT blogger. The card I filmed while I was creating it because I wanted to share the video with all of you guys. So I'm starting off with the My Favorite Things Seaside Seagulls stamp set that I created a card with a few weeks ago. 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'll have a link to it at the end here. And I'm lining up, I had the coordinating die set face down on my cardstock here inside my mini Misty. And I lined up all of the images. I did a quick tip video on this long time ago showing how I do this, and it works the best for me personally with My Favorite Things Die-namics because they don't nest their coordinating dies inside the other ones. They're all open like this, all arranged nicely. So I'm lazy and don't like cutting them apart. Plus it makes it easier to do things like this. So I lined up all the stamps with the coordinating die set and I'm stamping them onto Copic friendly cardstock. This is Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and I'm stamping it with My Favorite Things Black Licorice Hybrid ink because that is a good Copic friendly ink. And I decided to do 2 pieces of this. So I've got a whole bunch of seagulls. I had a rough idea in my head what I wanted to create here. So I knew I wanted a bunch of them. So I stamped everything twice. And then I'm going in and coloring everything with Copics, really quick, really simple. Again, I kind of sound like a broken record when I say my favorite images are pandas and snowmen and seagulls and anything that has just really, really simple coloring. I don't mind the detail stuff, but my favorites, it's just so much nicer to not have to think so much. So for these, I kept it simple. I just used a few cool grays to do all of the seagulls, just to give it that little bit of definition so they're not just, flat white. Started with my darkest, worked my way to the lightest. So I did, C4, C2, C00, and then I went over everything with my colorless blender just to kind of blend it all in and to push it a little deeper into the cardstock. And after I did the one sheet, I did the second. I didn't include that in the video because it's redundant. And then for their beaks, I did Y35, Y32, and YR30. And same thing. Just went darkest to lightest, really quick, really simple. Added darkest, then my middle color to blend it out a little bit, and then went in with that lightest color to kind of blend it all. And then for those 2 images where the little seagull's standing like on the post, I used several browns for that one, just E37, E35, E33, and E31. And then I quickly took my BG 000, so very pale aqua blue, and went along these little clouds. I wasn't originally going to even use the clouds, but it was like, oh, they're part of the dies. Might as well stamp them just to save myself whatever. And since they're going to get die cut, I might as well color them. You never know, I might use them anyway. So got everything colored, and then I lined up the coordinating dies there, taped them into place with some washi tape, ran them through my die cut machine. So everything's die cut all at once. Super quick, easy, simple. Pushed it all aside. Then I've got a piece of MFT smooth white cardstock, and I used my largest die from the Blueprints 1 Die-namics. That's one of my, I don't even bother keeping it with the set. I actually just keep it sitting beside my Big Shot. So I die cut the cardstock with that, and then I'm creating a scene with one of the stitched Valley dies that I cut from some latte cardstock. And then I've created waves with pieces of cornflower and summer splash cardstock that I die cut with the new Ocean Waves Die-namics, which I just love because I love all the different shapes of it. So I had this I started to plan it out on the cardstock there, how I want, everything to show up, and decided I needed to add some sunshine to it. So I pulled out the Radiating Rays stencil. The stencil was so hard to get my hands on for the longest time. It sold out immediately when they released it a couple months ago. And then I finally got my hands on it, and I see why it sells out so frequently because it's just perfect. So I'm just pulling some ink. This is Lemon Chiffon dye ink from MFT. I'm just pulling it with my little mini ink blending tool, pulling it from the center there where the sun is, and just pulling it down so it's darkest towards the sun itself, and then it just fades out to white towards the end. So I did that, and then I sponged more onto that little corner there for the actual sun itself. So got that all sponged into place, and now I can start creating my actual scene. So I'm going to start adhering all of these pieces to the white cardstock. I did think about popping things up with foam tape, you really could, and it would create amazing dimension. But I decided I wanted to keep everything pretty flat because I'm going to be adhering quite a bit, and I just wasn't in the mood to fiddle around with a ton of foam tape with this. So I adhered everything flat, but I made sure to apply the adhesive towards the bottom of these waves because I plan on tucking some of these images in, so I didn't want them glued all completely down, so I'm going to be wrestling with the cardstock. So I just applied the adhesive to the bottom of each piece and ended up only using 3 of the little ocean waves, but I'm going to save the 4th for the inside. So got those adhered, and then I'm going to start laying out all these crazy little seagulls to create my scene. I was 100% picturing that scene from Finding Dory. No, not Finding Dory, Finding Nemo. My kids are always watching Finding Dory lately, but it was Finding Nemo. That's the one with the seagulls. So yeah, totally picturing that scene. So hence me creating all of these birds because I had to. So got everything kind of laid out how I wanted it, and then I just started adhering all of these little guys, starting from the ones in the back there. So just little tiny squiggles of the adhesive, and then pressing them into place, tucking them under the waves and whatnot and the other birds, just to get them all into place. Didn't really take very long. So once I'm going to get all of these images tucked in, I'm going to adhere all the little clouds as well, and let a few of them kind of hang over the edges, just to give it that little extra something. And then for my sentiment, I pulled out my mini Misty again because the sentiment was kind of large and I wanted to make sure I stamped it straight. And I have a piece of MFT's Cherry Crisp cardstock. And then the sentiment that I'm so glad you're mine, 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 which again, love, just love. Every time I look at the set, that's what runs through my head is mine, mine, mine. Anyway. Treated the cardstock with my anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to stamp that onto right along the bottom there with some Versamark ink. Pull that out of my Misty, and then I'm going to use some detail white embossing powder, so sprinkle that over it, and then I'm going to melt that with my heat tool until it is completely melted, so it only takes a minute there. Make sure I get it good and hot before I even brought it to the cardstock to kind of eliminate any warping. And then once everything was melted, I'm going to get this in my paper trimmer and trim this down so it's just a nice thin strip. And then trim off each end as well. I sometimes will use scissors for this, but even something as small as this, I end up, I don't know, or maybe it's just my eyes. Something's going crooked. Either my cutting skills or my eyesight, whatever. So I just use my paper trimmer to trim off the ends. And then I cut notches in the center of each end with my scissors. And then you just meet up the center of the notch with the corner of the cardstock and your scissors, and then it trims little flag ends on each. So once that was done, I can pop that onto my card with the same adhesive. I had thought about like trimming it down and just using the words mine, 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 but I really liked the sentiment, so I wanted to use the whole thing. So adhered that. And then my card base is some more smooth white cardstock from MFT that I cut to 4 1/4 by 11. And I'm scoring it at 5.5 inches with my Teflon bone folder. So it's a top folding A2 sized card. And then I was going to, same thing, I was going to adhere this flat to the card, but then I thought for this, I would pop it up with just a bit of foam tape, just to give it that little bit of extra dimension. Everything else, like the scene itself, I think creates enough on its own. And then I had saved one more seagull and some clouds, and then I had that little ocean piece left over. So that way I can create just a mini scene on the inside of my card. I decided not to stamp any more sentiments, just have this cute little miniature scene on the inside and plenty of space to write something to the recipient. So tuck that below the little ocean wave there, and then I'm going to adhere all my little clouds. And I couldn't resist. I thought about it, but as I was making this, I'm like, of course I'm going to add googly eyes to all of these seagulls because you have to. So I pulled out, I have all 3 sizes of the Studio Katia googly eyes, the 3, the 4, and the 5mm. And I used all 3, just, you know, varying sizes. I used the large ones on these particular seagulls because with that curve of their like closed eyes, it was kind of large, but I also really liked how that looked. And then to have like those 2 with the 5mm, one with a 4mm, some of them with the little tiny 3mm, it just gave it that little extra something, and it makes them look so goofy. It's just perfect. So I just use little tiny dabs of that Nouveau adhesive, and then I was just picking up the googly eyes with my crystal katana and pressing them into place. And that finished off this fun little card. So as always, I will have links below the video to my blog post. There will be pictures in the blog post. There'll be links to all the supplies used if you're interested in any of that. You can check it out in the description box below. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate the support. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!